Now we are actually diving into the properties of all these coordination compounds. Okay, and that can only be explained now only if we understand chemical bonding. What we have discussed just now till now is all about like creating a certain vocabulary and understanding the structural pattern, but ultimate secret lies for chemistry only in chemical bonding. Of course structure, but basic secret is in the chemical bonding. Then the question arises, how do you understand chemical bonding? Because I said in the beginning itself, coordination compounds means a different type of bonding, right? Where in very simple term you already know that this is more of a covalent bond, but the pair of electron that is provided is completely given by one partner, and which we call as ligand. The recipient is always a metal, okay, because metals generally have vacant orbital in which these electron can be accommodated. So here ligand is like a base, Lewis base, and this is more like an acidic, basic. This is the coordination bond. Okay, if you take CONH3 Cl3, this is a complex compound. We are not at all concerned here about this bonding. We are only concerned about the bonding which are inside this coordination entity. Chemical bonding in coordination compounds. One theory that extensively helps us to understand the chemical bonding in coordination compound is naturally valence bond theory. So now we are going to apply valence bond theory, which you understood in your 11th class, to understand coordination bonds, okay, or VBT, abbreviated as VBT, okay. But there is another theory which is not discussed in your syllabus in 11th class, but that is exclusively for coordination compound. That's called crystal field theory. We will see later what it is, okay, or CFT. There are more advanced theories, just to name, called ligand field theory or LFT. And the most advanced theory and most perfect theory in any situation is always molecular orbital theory. But in your syllabus you have to only discuss the elementary theories, valence bond theory and their application, and crystal class. We will explore the idea of valence bond theory and apply it to coordination theory, coordination bonding, and see how these theory and later this theory also, there are some limitation which we will see in this theory which will be overcome in this theory. But in your syllabus you get the questions which are relevant to application of both theories. As I said that in your syllabus you will be only discussing mostly the application part of them, to explore the properties of these complex. How do you explain the structure of certain complex by using valence bond theory? How do you explain the color of these complexes? That is where the crystal field theory will come. All these things will be discussed, so mostly the application part. So let's explore the idea of valence bond theory. So as I said that when you apply valence bond theory, it simply suggests that the valence orbital of central metal atom of the coordination entity, okay, or you can even call it as compound, okay, undergo hybridization to create equal energy. Equal energy is important because you know why hybridization is important, only because you want all the orbital to create similar type of orbital, equal energy hybridized orbitals with the same number, same in number as that of atomic orbital or valence atomic orbital undergoing mixing. Okay, so this is important. Once you have this hybridized orbital, so this is the starting point for valence bond theory's basic understanding. Once you have this atomic orbital, hybridized orbital, these hybridized atomic orbitals orient themselves around the central metal, which could be atom or ion, anything. Okay, around the central metal, atom or ion, in such a way so as to minimize the repulsion between them. Okay, why the repulsion happens? Because there are going to be electrons occupying those orbitals, right? So there will be repulsion between them. All right, and in doing so, when they orient themselves as away as possible, in doing so, the complex or coordination compound ends up forming or acquiring a specific geometry. Okay, or you can say shape around the central metal atom. What kind of hybridization will lead to what kind of shape? We can just enlist very quickly. In your syllabus, you have to only concern with, let's say, coordination number 4. Like I told you, with when you have coordination number, if central atom can form 4 bonds, so coordination number is 4. And when you have coordination number 4 kind of complex compound, there are 2 type of hybridization that may be possible in a given in complex compound. So the hybridization which are possible, okay, in a given compound there will be only one, but there are 2 possibilities for coordination number 4. One is sp3 hybridization, which you have studied. Just like in methane, carbons 1s orbital and 3p orbital, they undergo hybridization to create 4 equal energy sp3 hybrid orbital, right? So hybridization is 4. There will be 4 sp3 hybrid orbital, and this will lead to, this hybridization always leads to tetrahedral shape. Okay, so there is a relation between the hybridization and the shape of the complex compound. That means how the ligands are going to orient themselves around the metal atom. So you know that the metal atom will be at the center and the tetrahedral shape will be like this. So here you are going to have the ligands around it. Okay, just like we have discussed previously. If it is coordination number 4 and hybridization is not sp3, but instead of one of the p, suppose one of the d orbital is participating, and you have dsp2 hybridization. So there is a 1 p orbital replaced by d. Suppose if these orbital of the central metal atom, they mix up 1d, 1s and 2p orbital, there will be 4 equal energies still, because there are 4 orbital which have participated. So 4 hybridized orbital will be created. And when you have this hybridization, so this is the tetrahedral shape here, tetrahedral, this will lead to square planar complex, not tetrahedral. So here you have a tetrahedral arrangement. I am not able to show this. Okay, I can suppose if I consider this in the plane, then this is going behind the plane and this is coming out of the plane of the paper. Okay, so this is solid base. This is a tetrahedral. In square planar, you can assume that entire structure is in the plane of the paper. So you have ligand here, and this should be considered as a square planar. If you connect the boundaries, then it will like a square planar. Then I will only put one more hybridization relevant to your syllabus, but actually speaking, if you have coordination number 5, then in addition to sp3, if you have one more d, that is called dsp3 hybridization, and that leads to a trigonal bipyramidal, just like PCl5 molecule, if you remember, but that's not coordination compound. So here there is a metal and you are going to have a plane of like a triangular geometry. Above and below plane you are going to have the ligands. So this is like a triangular planar geometry. There is a plane here, just like in octahedral complex you have a square planar, and here you have a triangular planar. Here you have D2 sp3 hybridization, one more d orbital, and this will lead to octahedral geometry or shape, or it is also square bipyramidal, because you have the metal and the ligands arrange themselves in like a fashion of a square planar. Okay, and above and below this square you have ligand to be considered. So this will look like an octahedral, or it is also called as square bipyramidal geometry. Okay, so this is something we are going to discuss here. Again, if you need, you can try to see by connecting the boundaries, which is understandable. Yesterday also we did. I'm sorry, not here. This is just to isolate a plane. I'm just trying to show you plane, how it looks. Alright, so let's take up some example and apply the theory. Let me take the example which is cobalt ammonia complex. This compound, it is given that the given compound is by magnetic, see, you can always measure the magnetic property by experiment, right? Even if you do not know the structure, there are experiments by which you can find out the magnetic property. So just the valence bond theory will not be sufficient enough without the magnetic property to be able to explain the structure. So it requires some external experimental supplement, and that's the magnetic property. The given complex compound or coordination compound is magnetically diamagnetic. It has almost all the electrons are paired. That means there is no magnetism which will be possible in this molecule. So this information is given to you. Then you have to approach to address this problem. How do you explain the structure of cobalt ammonia complex? As I said that you don't have to worry about these counter ions, which are just the balancing entities. So we can only isolate the complex entity, coordination entity, which is cobalt ammonia 6. What should be the valency here? 3 plus, because there are 3 negative ions. So here you should, the way in which you should start it, first start by writing down the electronic configuration of cobalt itself or cobalt's ion. What is the valency of cobalt here, or oxidation number in this particular case? See, ammonia is 0. So if you say that this is X, 6 ammonia means 60, and everything is plus 3, right? This whole total. Therefore, cobalt should be 3 plus. Cobalt is 3 plus. This is the oxidation state of cobalt here. So cobalt given is 3 plus. So you should write down the electronic configuration of this. You always start by writing first for the neutral atom, then you proceed with the ions, because otherwise you will confuse yourself. So electronic configuration for cobalt, this is cobalt's electronic configuration. अच्छा, आपको बनाना है cobalt 3+, then you write the next cobalt 3+. So when you write down the electronic configuration, 3 electron to be eliminated, so that will be 2 electron from here, 1 electron from here. So that means here you are going to write, you can use the box diagram to represent these orbitals. That's the way in it is given in your book also. So let's say 5d orbital, okay, 1 2 3 4 5, then you have s orbital, and then required, then we will use the p orbital, because after this follows the p orbital, 3d 4s 4p, है ना, आपको पता है इसके बाद में 4p का आएगा, लेकिन हमको जरूरत होगी तो यूज करेंगे. तो अभी आपके पास में कितने इलेक्ट्रॉन बचे हैं? केवल 6. So 6 electron according to Hund's rule, if you put 1 2 3 4 and then 5 and then 6, 6th should come here, right? Correct, because this is still in the d orbital. We are still writing only for cobalt 3 as if it is not a part of complex. But now when you have to consider in complex, in the complex, I will again write down in the complex compound cobalt 3+ की electronic configuration. If there is no bonding necessary, then the orbital don't undergo hybridization. Only when you need for complex compounds, you require to do that. So I am writing here in the complex compound, the electronic configuration now should be written down according to the necessity of hybridization. Each ammonia ligand shares one pair of electron, ठीक है ना, and that shall be accommodated, in an empty hybridized metal orbital. So you require 6 orbital. Do you have 6 orbitals here? No. First of all, you have these orbitals which are unpaired electron, number 1. Again, the question is, even if you don't bother right now about these, you have only 1 orbital here, then you need to now include more orbital. So that means you should consider another p orbital, next orbital, which are anyway there, 4p0, which we don't write if it is empty completely, है ना. Magnetic data is saying that it should be diamagnetic. The complex compound is diamagnetic. That means in the formation of the complex, you should not have any unpaired electron. So the first thing that you need to do is pair up all these electrons in the complex, in the formation. That's why when I'm writing the electronic configuration of cobalt in the complex, then I am considering all these aspects. It is diamagnetic, so I should pair up. And if you pair up these electrons, so maximum pairing will lead to 3 pair of electron. This will create 2 unpaired, 2 empty orbital. This will create 2 empty d orbital here itself in the valence shell. Though ye, and then you have 1 4s and then 3 p orbital be available. Okay, so here you have 3d 4s 4p. See, in the absence of our ligand, nothing is happening because there is no one to influence. Right now the ligands are influencing. That's why the magnetic property is shown differently from what it should be just for the ions. So you should consider this fact, and given that now you have 2 d orbitals available, 1 4s and 3 p orbitals, so they undergo hybridization. 1 3d orbital, sorry, 2 3d orbital, 1 4s and 3 4p orbitals undergo hybridization to create equal energy 6 D2sp3 hybridized orbitals. ठीक है, कितने? 6 plus there are 6 orbital mixing up, 2, 1 and 3, so you get 6 of these, and then the representation of them is done by presenting them together. Therefore in the complex now you have hybridized orbitals separated from this. So your cobalt 3 plus shows the electronic configuration as if these are d orbital which are carrying these are 3d orbital of atomic nature. So you have pair of electrons. I'm just separating them so that they are of pure d orbital nature, and the other 6 orbitals now are being represented by these 6 boxes together. Okay, 6 of them. So these are 6 D2sp3 hybrid orbitals. And then when you show, therefore in the formation, I should write here, therefore in the formation of cobalt ammonia 6 3 plus, then now I write here, these are again d orbital, this is 3d, and then they should be these orbital which are hybrid orbital, they should be shown filled with the pair of electron provided by the ligand. So there are 6 chlorine atoms, they will be providing 6 pair of electrons, 6 ammonia, not chlorine, 6 ammonia. So each one is provided by 1 ammonia, this is also provided by another ammonia, NH3, okay, so NH3. So this is your complex compound with octahedral geometry. This complex compound, this leads to octahedral geometry. Why octahedral geometry? Because we know from valence bond picture, this D2sp3 hybridization leads to octahedral geometry. Okay, so then you can simply represent here the complex structure also, the answer, and here it is automatically said because you use this information that this compound is diamagnetic in nature. So please try to understand how this theory helped you to predict this complex, because the theory has a certain framework available as the information which says that if you have a coordination number 6, that will lead to D2sp3 hybridization, and D2sp3 hybridization may lead to octahedral complex. Okay, now another thing is that sometime right now we have used sometime you will find that it is hybridization is sp3d2. There is no difference here and here, both hybridization are same, because there are 2 d orbital also, but why it is d which is coming later? In this case, this kind of situation will arise when you are using 3d 4s 4p, है ना, inner, this is inside d orbital, but in many situation your d orbital this may not be available, then in that case you may have to use 4d, next higher orbital. So this is like an outer orbital. In this case 2d orbital from here will come, that's why the sp3d2. So whichever kind of complex that you are discussing, whatever metal you have, depending upon that you will end up either with d2sp3 or sp3d2, but both are same, so don't worry about that, both will lead to the same geometry. Now there are various terms that I would like to introduce to you here because they are part of this theory. Now this kind of complex, this complex, because what we have done is we have sent the electron inside for pairing, है ना? Why we did that? Because magnetic data required that. So this complex where all the electrons are paired up, okay, is called, also referred to as low spin complex. Why low spin? Low spin is a general term where spin of the electron is minimized by pairing. This is term that you should know, because sometimes they may refer to only the term and you should be able to explain that. Why this complex is a low spin complex? Simply because in the formation of this complex, the requirement of there is a pairing of electron which is happening, and that leads either either one or no unpaired electron. So it is a low spin complex. Okay, the spin of the electrons is minimized. You know that whenever you have a pairing of electron, what is the net spin? Anybody? What is the spin of electron? Okay, let me ask the fundamental question. What is the spin of a single electron? If I represent this single electron, what is the spin? What is the value of spin value S? Either you call it as plus half or minus half. If generally when we represent this by up arrow, we call it as plus half. If you represent by down arrow, you call it as minus half. This is just the convention. No difference between the two, but just the convention, because there exist two types of spins. But suppose if you have a pair of spin, then cancel each other's spin because they add up, and cancellation means the net spin will be 0. So that's what I am saying. Low spin means either 0 spin or half spin, nothing more than that. But if you have more than one unpaired electron, the spin will add up in that proportion. So these are low spin complex. This type of complex where pairing of electron happens are referred to as low spin complex, inner orbital complex. Because here the pairing of electron of inner d orbital has happened, that leads us to empty inner d orbital also to be participating in the hybridization, and they will be mostly these complexes are diamagnetic. You can try describing the same thing of structure and all those things in the same format for the complex. Let's say one complex, and that is where magnetic moment is very close to 0. This is the information given to you. Explain the formation of this by using valence bond theory. High spin complex, for example, okay, here also you go everything exactly in the same way. You start with cobalt's electronic configuration here, cobalt's here has again oxidation number cobalt 3 plus. So I am writing here directly cobalt 3 plus in the complex compound, and let me tell you, it is given that this compound is paramagnetic in nature. Okay, so this is by magnetic moment data. So cobalt 3 plus in the complex compound, if you consider that it is paramagnetic in nature, so you should leave the electrons unpaired. When it is paramagnetic, don't pair them up. And right now we are not concerned with the exact magnitude of magnetic moment, so you can simply leave them unpaired. 1 2 3 4 5 and then 6, only one is paired. This leaves us with no choice. Right now the coordination number is still 6, so coordination number 6 means you should have 6 orbitals available for hybridization. So that means this leaves us with no choice but to consider one more next d orbital for the hybridization to be included. So generally in the atomic structure you will have 5 d orbitals. These are 4 d orbitals, 1 2 3 4 5. Then you have to consider mixing up of these orbitals. So these will undergo hybridization to create sp3d2, 6 sp3d2 hybridized orbital. And then each one, when they accommodate, so you get a cobalt 3 plus in this complex compound, cobalt F6 3 minus. Now these are your d orbital untouched, and then 6 d orbitals, sp3d2 hybridized orbitals, 1 2 3 4 5 and 6, each one with one pair of electrons, and these pair of electrons are now provided by 6f minus ligands. Okay, so these are sp3d2 and these are 3d orbital of atomic nature. So here you have fluorine, this will also lead to octahedral geometry only because coordinate number is still 6. So this is a octahedral complex. But then look at this one. We want to call this one as high spin complex, because there is a spin of electron still unpaired, and that too in the high number. Whatever highest number that is possible, it is available. Low spin means spin paired, and high spin means spin free. All the spins are free, no pairing, or it is also referred to as outer orbital complex. So these are various terms, just opposite to what we have used previously. Outer orbital, house spin, spin free. They may ask the question to be able to explain, so you should be able to explain, and you should also try to draw the structure cobalt 3 plus, okay, and F here you can try to show very easily the symmetric structure here, F and F, of course with the valency that you write here as 3 minus. So this is how you should represent everything properly whenever a discussion is done about a complex compound by using valence bond theory, and you should carefully use the magnetic data which is provided. And here also I leave you with some assignment, so you explain formation of, these are the examples which are very frequently you will find that they are generally discussed and asked, so you should discuss all of them. This is 1 2 and 3, and let me tell you, all of them you have to consider they are all spin free complex. They are all spin free, that means they belong to this category. So you leave the spin of electron unpaired. Okay, so here are application of valence bond theory to complex compounds with coordination number 4. Okay, so we are now going to deal with coordination number 4. There are, as I said, that coordination number 4 can lead to two different geometries. One is tetrahedral, and also square planar. Okay, so okay, let's take the example which is nickel tetrachloride. So you begin with writing the electronic configuration of nickel first, 3d8 4s2. Nickel has an oxidation number of 2 plus. Okay, so you write down, then you actually should be interested only in the electronic configuration of nickel 2 plus ion. Okay, from nickel atom you should form nickel 2 plus ion. And if you write down the electronic configuration of this in the box diagram of orbital, so d orbital, how many electrons? 8. You follow Hund's rule, 1 2 3 4 5. The next 3 electron should be in a way so that they pair up. Okay, so this is your 3d orbital, this is your 4s orbital. How now if you talk about the situation of nickel 2 plus ion in the complex, that means surrounded, when it is surrounded by the ligands, you know, complex formation will always happen only when it is surrounded by ligands, right? So in the complex or in the given complex compound, now I am writing nickel's electronic configuration again, 2 plus ions in the given complex. What is the requirement? require 4 empty orbital. Okay, I forgot to write here. The given complex is paramagnetic in nature. Paramagnetic in nature. That means you will require the electrons of nickel 2 plus ion to remain unpaired. That's the condition. Okay, in this complex, the nickel is showing a paramagnetic property. So now in the given complex, when you write the electronic configuration of nickel, first thing is that you require 4 empty empty orbital for the hybridization. Okay, but and apart from that, you also need to keep the electrons unpaired, because you can see that in nickel 2 plus the 2 electrons are unpaired, right? One thing is that if it was diamagnetic, you could have paired it up. That would have left you with one orbital, d orbital, empty, available for ligand, but it says that paramagnetic. So paramagnetic means don't pair up. Okay, leave the electrons unpaired, and if you do so, your d orbital remain as it is, like it is still of the atomic nature. The d orbital will remain of atomic nature with all its electrons filling it up. 8 electrons, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 and 8. And then where do you hope to get the more orbital? The next orbital, which is p. So I'm again working out one example systematically so that you can understand how you have to represent in the exam. Okay, so these are 3d orbital. We are not touching them for hybridization. We are going to use 4s orbital, one 4s orbital, and 4p orbital. 4p orbital, which are all 3. So please see, I am discussing now in the given complex. In the given complex. So in the given complex only, these orbitals will undergo hybridization. To create 4 equal energy sp3 hybrid orbitals. Okay, and now we represent them separately together. Okay, so let's say I write here now further, now in given complex, which is nickel chloride 2 minus, the electronic configuration along with the ligand. So these are d orbital, which I am not using for hybridization. And then now you represent all the 4 hybrid orbitals together because they are of the same energy, sp3 hybrid orbitals. Now all you need to do is fill up the electrons which are provided by now 4 ligands. Each one is fluorine. Oh, sorry, chlorine. Yeah, I have taken chlorine. Yeah, chlorine. Well, it is chloride ion actually. So this leads to tetrahedral complex. Why we are saying it is tetrahedral? Because sp3 hybridization. Tetrahedral complex. And if you want to show, you can show it but with diagram. And of course, don't forget to mention the charge also, which is 2 minus on the entire complex. This will by default lead to nickel as 2 plus oxidation number. Okay, either you show in the complete bracket, that's one way, or simply you can put it at the corner of the box. So you see that this is how you have given the same treatment as we have done for coordination number 6 in previous example. So now you should be clear how to apply valence bond theory to explain the structure of a given complex, which also by default utilizes the the knowledge of magnetic data from the experiment. Okay, nickel carbonyl, and it is given that this complex compound is diamagnetic. Let's say right now you do not know whether it is tetrahedral or square planar, but we know what we do know is coordination. It is coordination number 4 and it is given as diamagnetic. So you start with the electronic configuration of nickel atom, and that's 3d8 4s2. Then here also the oxidation number is 0. So what do you do? This compound is given as diamagnetic. Pairing is going to be required in the diamagnetic complex, and if you do so, you will have 4s orbital coming empty. Basically the electronic configuration should turn as 3d10 4s0. This should become the electronic configuration then, to fulfill the condition that it is a diamagnetic complex. Make sense? And also you get one 4s orbital available, but at the same time coordination number is 4, so you require 3 more orbital, right? And that is where you can write here the because it is required the next 4p0 orbital and 3 of them. Now you apply valence bond theory. The theory says that the outermost completely empty orbital with a certain number as per coordination number should undergo hybridization. Undergo hybridization to create 4 equal energy sp3 hybrid orbitals. And the shape of this complex compound again is tetrahedral, so this should lead to, therefore the given complex compound is tetrahedral complex. So nickel and then carbonyl have this bond. So this is with 0 oxidation number, and you can leave it as it is. Okay, so this is a tetrahedral complex. See, there is another example of the complex. So if this is the complex compound given here, and it is also said this complex compound is diamagnetic, right? It will turn out to be +2. That means nickel here exists as nickel 2 plus ion in this complex compound. Okay, nickel exists as nickel 2 plus ion. So here this is the nickel's electronic configuration. This is in the isolated form as it is here. By nickel 2 plus ion means 2 electrons from s orbitals removed, and then you have this electronic configuration. Now in the given complex compound, the complex compound is diamagnetic. What do you need to do? Pair up the electrons if they are unpaired. So I am pairing up this electron inside, and this leaves me with this orbital and 3 4p orbital unpaired. But then I should only combine the orbital as per requirement. Coordination number is 4, so only 4 orbitals are required. So 1d you take that, 1 4s you take, and then 2p only. 1 2 3 4, you leave 1p orbital of no use for this hybridization purpose. So they lead to, I should write here 1 3d, 1 4s and 2 4p orbitals of nickel 2 plus ion undergo hybridization to create 4 equal energy. Which hybridization will happen? It will be dsp2 hybrid orbitals. 4. Okay, 4 orbitals will be created, and they all are of equal energy, and they will orient in space in a way. Now we know that if it is dsp2 hybridization, of course they all repel each other and they orient in a way. The best orientation that was achieved to minimize the repulsion was tetrahedral, but because of the nature of the d orbital, it doesn't acquire tetrahedral. Because of the nature of d orbital, it acquires square planar geometry, and that's where your complex compound, the arrangement of electron is something like this. Now here I am showing the unhybridized orbitals of atomic nature separately. So they carry, there are 4 orbitals which I have broken up from this continuity, and now these 4 orbitals I will show together as hybrid orbitals. Okay, this is all symbolic. Okay, the box diagram and all those things, these are just symbolic to bring the clarity. So these are 4 dsp2 hybrid orbitals, and then remaining 1 p orbital you can show separately. This is 4p orbital separately. Okay, this is one of the p orbital. Okay, not all the p orbitals. Okay, so here then you have to show the ligands providing the pair of electrons. Each ligand provides 1 pair of electron, and here you have cyanide, 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 cyanide. This is a symbolic representation of the complex formation. Okay, and then but then if you represent that, this square, this is a square planar complex, square planar geometry. So nickel, and here you have 4 cyanide. So if you try to represent them in a fashion where the geometry looks like a square planar, this is whenever I show the outline to bring the clarity to the shape, I use the dotted line. Otherwise, if you draw hard line, in some of the example in the book they have drawn the hard line. That is a wrong representation, because it tells you as if you are representing them also bonded. No, that should be carefully drawn. So this is how you explain this. In this complex, depending upon the magnetic data, you ended up pairing it, and that lead you 1 d orbital available as a first orbital. So the consequence of this is that whenever hybridization happens, it will also have a d orbital, and by default the requirement of 4 orbital including d orbital to undergo hybridization by default lead to square planar geometry. So just having the same type of ion as in the first example, here in chloride case, this one, but this complex was paramagnetic. The other complex is diamagnetic, cyanide complex, and that leads to completely different geometry. Did you realize this? So with the same coordination number 4, you can have 2 different geometries depending upon the magnetic behavior also. Or you can say that just because they are these complexes, the magnetic properties correspond to that geometry. Okay, is that clear? So we complete here valence bond theory and its application for your syllabus with these examples. There are some fundamental limitation to this theory also. Just 2-3 limitations are there, because that will encourage us to move to the next theory. Limitations of valence bond theory for coordination compounds. We are only talking about coordination compound, that's why I am writing it here again and again. Okay, whatever limitations that we are going to discuss right now, they are related to coordination compounds and being explained by VBT. One thing, very simple and clear, any property actually should be explained by a theory which is supposed to be standard theory. In this application of valence bond theory, in the whole of this theory, we have used magnetic data and then we explain the shape. It is like going other way around. So that's a slight limitation, although we could successfully use it and explain the structure, but it utilizes the magnetic data. So this theory does not give any information about the magnetic properties of complex compound. Correct? What we are using is an experimental data, but we should have got that from the prediction of the theory itself. Right now we are not getting that at all. Okay, number one. Second, one of the very important property of all the complex compound is the color property. You at any stage, did you see that we could not talk about the color of the given complex? We could not predict that, because color is a spectroscopic property and it comes from the interaction of light with the complex compound, and it will involve electronic transition and all those things. This theory does not say anything about electronic transition, and hence this theory does not give any information about the color property of given complex compound. Another important limitation, because all these limitations that we are talking should be overcome in our next theory, and they are very important one. Another important problem that is realized here, at any stage you might have seen we have been only talking about the shape of the complex compound, but theory does not say anything about the stability of given complex compound. Why? Because a complex compound may be formed, but how long is it going to be stable, or for how good is the stability, that decides whether it is worth using, or whether it is useful or not. Okay, stability is a very important thing. You remember at some point of time I mentioned that chelation leads to better stability of the given complex, but you don't get that understanding by this valence bond theory. Although valence bond theory may be those examples we have not discussed in your syllabus here, but even chelation can be the geometry can be explained for chelation also, but the stability of that kind of compound is not explained. Okay, so this theory is blind to that. Another important limitation, the theory independently cannot predict by itself the complex compound given complex compound with coordination number 4 will be square planar or tetrahedral. Because to be able to distinguish between the two type, you have to heavily rely on the magnetic data. In at least octahedral complexes, whether it is inner or outer orbit, that's another issue, but at least coordination number 6 by default means tetrahedral, octahedral, remember. But coordination number 4, it can lead to two possibilities, square planar and tetrahedral. But you cannot simply say coordination number 4 by default means this or that distinction is not clear until you use heavily the magnetic data. So there is a little bit ambiguity about that. And the last one that I want to emphasize, so the influence of ligands in the formation of complex is not very clear in this theory, because it is the influence of ligand that may affect whether it is going to be pairing up or not. Actually speaking, in the next theory you will see you don't require the magnetic data, and by just considering the influence of various types of ligand, you will be able to pair up or leave it unpaired. So this is a very important thing. All these factors that we have said as limitation, they will be overcome in the next theory.